Hey there, this is K4A. In this video today I just wanted to give you a link to read free game development, game programming book called Game Programming Patterns by Robert Nystrom. So the most important thing is that this book is free, but again another very important issue is that this book is not available for download. You have to read it online in some kind of web version, like reading online website. So for some of you that would be okay, for some of you not. So I will leave the link in description, and it's gameprogrammingpatterns.com. That's how the book is called, Game Programming Patterns by Robert Nystrom, and the book is, as its title says, about game programming patterns. That's let's say mechanics, a feature in game and in programming, also in general, not only game programming, where you use some kind of intermediate to advanced techniques to make your code look better, behave better, be organized and manage better, and that way solve some problems which can occur when you make more complex games, bigger games. But also on the other side, this book is not for, I would not recommend it for beginners probably. It can probably more confuse you or more make you scared and worry about how programming is hard and slow to learn, or hard and heavy to understand, and so on. So it's mostly for people who are into already into some kind of game programming, so they can understand more advanced concept easy and better. It's done by this guy who was working at EA Electronics Arts, so it's professional. It's not some kind of hobby adventurist guy. So he worked for EA 8 years, and saw a lot of beautiful code and not so beautiful code and so on. So he's sharing his experience, his best practices, possible problems or pitfalls you can fall in, which they already saw in professional game development and so on. So the whole idea here is to click on this web version which says read now, and it will open this table of contents. Other versions are just samples and links to buy that book in different formats, print, ebook, PDF and so on, but only this web version here. This is whole book, absolutely zero cost, but you have to read it online. The book is, I would recommend it, is really good. I haven't read it in complete total from cover to cover. I have used it for some kind of problems, ideas and learning experiences which I had with some of those design patterns. I have used some of those and I have used them in different engines. This book is, I think it was wrote in some kind of C++ code samples. So if you use C++ already, you should be able to almost copy paste the code, and it would be probably the easiest learning curve for you and reading this book. But if you're I am not, for example, using it, it's not made only for C++ users, but it's more like code agnostic, like you don't have to know that code, but there is some also pseudocode and some general talk about game design patterns, so you will understand the whole idea, the principles, and then instead of using C++, you will use it to your own game programming language. So for example, if you use Unreal, but not blueprints, but C++ in Unreal. As much as I remember, you could use this book one-to-one, just replicate the code to it, or some other game engine which uses C++. But for example, if you use Unity, which uses C#, or Godot, or GameMaker, or stuff like that, you're not going to be able just to copy paste. But otherwise, again, it's very good book, very precise, simple, very great examples, and so on. So for example, lots of those game design patterns like singleton, observer, state, you will use them in game development even into intermediate level. For example, singleton you use when you want to use only one copy, one instance of some object on the scene. So for example, if you have a game manager, you don't want to have two game managers on the scene, on the screen, because they would confront each other, they would fight between each other about code. So you can learn about that here, and sometimes there are some drawings to express the idea more simple. State pattern is very common also because you use it to define different states of, for example, character in a game, where you have when the character is, for example, moving as no, we have standing here. Okay, so we have one state where character stands in terms of when, for example, player doesn't press keyboard, then the player on the screen is without movement, so then turn animation idle. Otherwise, if player wants to move and presses the keyboard WASD, or arrow left, right, top, down, and then go into state number 2, which is movement, and move the player and run the code. So we already have two states. Another state is, for example, when player is jumping, as they say here, ducking, diving, and so on. So you define some kind of I wouldn't say AI, but some kind of like script code where you and you can see the examples of code here. So for example, we have a switch statement here, which we will learn soon in GameMaker if I haven't explained it there already. So the same switch statement exists in Scratch game engine, in Unreal, in Unity. So even though this is C++, maybe you will use it more or less in the same way as in other game engines. So there are examples how to make some kind of manager which checks in which state your player or whatever you code in your game is, and then depending on that state change the code. So one code for movement, another for idle, another for jumping, and so on. So that way you make your code more manageable, more readable, shorter, and so on. You can change it later more easy, and so on. So that's the state. Singleton observer is also a little bit, let's say, more advanced, and also you can call it with other names in some other game engines, but it's very usable, and people use it lots of times. But there are also some kind of even game loop and update, which we had in Unity. It's called update. In GameMaker and other game engines it's called different. In GameMaker we had create event to start, and then instead of update it's called differently in GameMaker step I think event. So also game loop, which is described how game works in its core in terms of, yeah, you can see here, it's some kind of loop, some kind of cycle where you need to check the input which player puts. So input is, for example, mouse click, keyboard, and so on. So computer checks that first, then updates the game depending on how the player clicked or pressed the keyboard, then renders that on screen, and then goes back again on the beginning, and so on in cycles, on and on. And the whole idea here is that this is working and showing on the screen very, very fast. That's why the processors have those speed and power in hertz, gigahertz, and so on, terahertz, and stuff like that. And that's how they represent how many times they can possibly reiterate, recycle through these processes without stopping. And that is important in some games to render your game as fast as possible, and mostly in some first-person shooter games or EA sports, where you need your render on the screen to be as fast and as clean as possible, because yeah, here it is, when the game updates in real time, it goes as many frames you have per second, that many times game engine and processor has to render your game on the screen. And sometimes, as you can see on those two examples here, there is some lag, some problem between processor and rendering in terms of updating the code and rendering that code on the screen. Sometimes it's skipped, it's glitched, it's lagged, and so on, so the problems become visible on the screen, and so on and so on. So I'm not going to talk anymore. Anyway, this is a great book, great that this guy gave this book for us for free to learn, and from his experience and knowledge, and shared that with us. So if you need it, check it out. Again, I would not recommend it for complete beginners, because this book can turn you away from coding, but for intermediate and people who want to learn game development into intermediate and on advanced level, I think this is a must-have, at least to check it out from time to time and learn the different or more professional approach than what you would do it alone, or some people on the YouTube. That's it for this video. Thanks for watching. See you in next one. Bye for now.